Until that condition is true, the code inside the loop will get executed over and over. And as soon as that condition becomes false, that's when the loop will terminate. All right. So let's take a look at how this works. So the syntax is for. We will start with the keyword for, as you can see on the left hand side, and then we have to declare a variable. This variable here it is written as iterator variable, but 99% of the time you are going to use I, and if I has already been used, you'll be using J. Like there's no rule that you have to use I and J, but it's common programming practice to use I and J, and then if you want to use a third loop, then you can also use K as the names of the iterator variable. All right, and then you will write colon, and after an indentation, you can write the code that you want to execute within the loop. All right, and you can see the diagram here that the sequence, the sequence and the loop body, which is the code snippet, they run in a circular fashion until there is no item left in the sequence, which means that we have reached the end of the list. We have reached the end of the array or whatever set of elements you are using. Okay, so here we have some examples. Let's go to our IDE and let's take a look. All right, here we are in our IDE. And let's say I want to run my for loop 4 times. Okay, in that case, what I will do, I will write for, that's my keyword for starting a for loop. Then I will pick my iterator variable, which I have said is y, which is I, not y. So for I, and I have to run it 4 times. So the range of my loop will be 4. So I will write for I in range of 4. All right. Then I will write a colon, and inside the colon, I can write anything. So let me just print the number which I am executing. Okay. So I will run this, and you can see I get the output as 0, 1, 2, 3. So my code is running, this loop is running 4 times, starting from 0 and ending from 3. Okay, and now let's take a look at the second example. We will go back to our presentation. And here, instead of a range, we have used a string. Okay, so instead of range, we will use a string. First, let's declare a string. We will write str is equal to, let's say, programming. And here we'll write for I in stri print I. So let's first print this and see what happens. Okay. So what's happening here is that we have this string called programming. Okay. And then we are iterating through this string using the variable I. So for I in string means that when the loop occurs the first time, the value of I will be the first element of this list, which is P in programming. And when the loop runs the second time, it will be R. It will be R. And when we run the loop the third time, it will be O. And the fourth time, it will be G. And each time we are printing the value of our iterator variable, which is I. And that's why we are getting each element printed out as a from our iterator variable. Okay, any doubts until here?
No, sir.
All right. So now we get to our while loop. Okay. So as I said before, when we are using the while loops, we are not going to be using range. Let's go back to our IDE. Okay, let me go back to where we were earlier. Right. So as you can see here, we were using a range. Okay, if the range was 4, which means we are going from 0 to 3. But that's not what we do in while loops. In while loops, we do a different thing, and what we do is that we declare a condition. And until and unless that condition turns false, that loop will continue to iterate. And you can see the same thing in the diagram here. So you have a condition, and then you have a loop body, which means that the loop body is the code snippet. Okay, and you can see that the condition and the code snippet are forming, again, they are forming a circular fashion, which means that until the condition is true, you can see here, if condition is true, uh, then and only then the code snippet will get executed. And as soon as the condition turns false, the loop will we will exit the loop. Okay, someone is unmuted. Please mute yourself because there's an echo. All right. So you must be thinking that if this loop starts running once, okay, if the condition is set to true once, then how will that become false? Because the code snippet is the same every time, right? Because there's just one code snippet inside the while loop. So how is it that when we run that, let's say 10 times or 20 times, how is it that all of a sudden that condition we're using to check the while loop, how is it that it automatically turns into a false condition? Because the snippet is same every time. So that is done because inside a code snippet, we have set we have to set certain certain conditions uh, in which the condition we are checking for, we have to give scope to those conditions that they might turn false. If you are confused right now, don't worry. We will solve some questions and then we will take a look at it. So for now, let's take a look at this GIF. Uh, First, take a look for let's say a minute, and then I will explain it. All right. So let's first take the example one. That is okay. In example one, we have a variable a, and that the value of that variable a is equal to 1. And then we start a while loop, and the condition is while a is less than 10. So as long as the value of a stays less than 10, what are we going to do? We are going to print the value of a, and then we are going to add 2 to the value of a. Okay, so what happens is that in the first loop, we get the output as 1 because that is the value of a. And in the second loop, because we have already added 2 to the value of a, it turns into 3. And in the second loop, it turns into 5. And then it turns into 7. Then it will turn into 9. And after that, see, it's already 9 here. And the next time we print this, it will turn into 11. And since 11 is greater than 10, 11 is not less than 10, this loop we will exit this while loop. Similarly, you can also see the condition here. So in the example one, we were only printing a, but in the example two, we are checking if the value of a is odd or even. Right? We did this odd or even program yesterday, if you remember. And the condition is same here. We are adding to the value of a, and as long as it stays under the value of 7, the while loop will keep getting executed. And as soon as it goes over 7, like let's say the value is over 7 or equal to 7, we will not execute the loop anymore. All right. Before we get to this example, let's try out some questions. All right. Okay, so let's say my question
Siddharth,
is, yes.
take those questions from the resources that we have prepared yesterday.
Yep, I'm there.
Okay.
All right. So let's say our first question can be that I want to display. Let's say I want to display all the odd numbers between some range. Okay, let's take the range as 1 from 1 to 10, and I want to display all the odd numbers that are between that range. Okay, so what I will write a for loop for I in range. Okay, and last time what we did was, you remember, we just set one number which is 10, and it went from 0 to 9. But I don't want this to go from 0 to 9. I want this to go from 1 to 10. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to type 1 comma 10. So let's just execute this and see what happens. Okay, print I, and when we run this, you can see instead of going from 0 to 9,
Please,
it's
what is the
going.
question again?
Can you repeat that? Uh, yeah, someone asked a question. Can you repeat that, please? Okay, never mind. Okay, so as you saw last time, the value was going from 0 to 9, but this time we have started the value from 1 instead of from 0. That's why it's going from 1, as you can see, from 1 to 9 here. But as you can see, the value is increasing from 1 each time. What if I
Hello,
want
sir.
to, yes,
Yes, for this for loop, we are looking for a range from 1 to 9, right?
yep.
So if you are just going to find a range, you don't have to add 1. That will start from 0 to 9.
Yep, but the condition is that we don't want to start from 0. For
Let's
example,
take
if I remove this one,
okay, and
then the
execute.
list will start from 0.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
all right. So we start from 1 instead of from 0. And but I don't want, so as you can see, the value of I is increasing by 1 each time. But what if I don't want it to increase by 1? What if I want to increase it by 2? So in that case, I'm just going to enter another comma here, and I will enter 2. So now what will happen is, first let us execute this and check it out. And we get the output as 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So what's happening here is that the loop is going from 1 to 1 to 9, because 10 minus 1 is 9. So it's going from 1 to 9, but in each loop it's increasing its value from 2. Like instead of going I is equal to I plus 1, it's going I is equal to I plus 2. Okay, did everybody understand this? This you have this
Yes,
is
sir.
okay.
Sir,
So
please repeat that one.
all right. So once again, your first number is your starting value. Your second number is your ending value, and your third number is the value which gets added. All right. So let's say, as you saw, this is the starting value and this is the ending value. So what if I want to print, you see this sequence right here, right? What if I wanted to print this sequence, but in the reverse order? In that case, what should I do? Like I'm going to print the same sequence, but in the reverse order.
Then we have to start from 9 to
Can we use
1,
-2?
Uh, okay,
and then
we
7 will be
cannot use
minus.
-2 here because our range is positive. Like for now, we cannot use it. But yeah, when we go in the reverse order, then we can use -2. Okay, so let's check it out. We will go from 9 to 1, and our jumping variable will be -2. Okay, let's execute it. And as you can see, we get the same order, but we didn't get 1 here. Okay, we didn't get 1 because our ending value is 1, and we know that the loop gets executed one value before the ending value. So here we will enter 0 instead of 1. And when we execute this, you can see we get 97531. So as you saw, the loop works from both sides. Okay, the starting value can be smaller or greater than ending value. You just have to keep one thing in mind. If the starting value is lower and the ending value is higher, your jumping value should be a positive value. But if you're going from higher to lower, you have to keep it as a negative number. All right. Okay,
Yes, sir.
so let's check out another question, and let's declare a list. We will name that list1, and let's just take the variables as 10, 25A, and let's say Python. All right, we have a list here, and we want to print all the variables in the list. And there are two ways of doing this. Okay, so we will take a look at both of them. First we will check for I in, and we can directly type here list1. Okay. Then we will enter colon, and we can just straight away print I. Okay. So when we run this, each element of the list gets printed outside of it. Each element of the list gets printed. Okay, so this is the easy way. So we can do this in another way. For that, we have to find out the range of the list. So how we can do that is, let's say we take another variable. Let's say we take a variable x, and the value of x will be the length of the list. So can anybody tell me how long is the list right here?
5. Length is 5.
Yep, the length is 5. So here we can count it, like, because the list is small, we can count it ourselves. But what if the list is very big? In that case, we use the length function. So we will type len, which stands for length, and inside the length we will type list1. So what's happening here is that the length of the list, which is 5, gets stored in the variable of x. And in the for loop, we will let me just remove this. And then we write a for loops for I in range x. Okay, and the value of x is 5. That's why this loop will get executed 5 times. We can then we can print list 1 I. All right. So here we have list 1, and inside the square brackets we have I. So a couple of classes ago we studied how to access a single element of a list at a time. So when this loop runs the first time, the value of I will be 0. And that's why, when the value of I is 0, then the 0th element of this list will get printed, and the 0th element is 10. And when the value of I is 1, then the second element will get printed. Similarly, as each time the value of I increases, a new element of list will get printed. Let's check it out. We will print this. Okay, we didn't print this. Sorry about that. We will print a list of the ith element of the list. And as you can see, the output is the exact same as the list before. All right, now let's take a look at another question. We will keep a list here, and here we can take a few more numbers. Let's take 15, and let's take 75. Okay. And now I want to add all of these numbers. So let's say I want to take 10, and then I want to add it to 20, and then I want to take the added number, which is 10 plus 20 is 30, and then I want to add 5 to it. That will be 35. And then I want to add 15 to it, which will be 50. And then I want to add 75 to it. So instead of adding each number at a time, we can also do this using for loop. So we'll write for I in list1. Okay, first we have to declare, let's declare a variable sum. And since we have to declare the value of sum as an integer, let's just start it with the value of 0. Okay. And so inside the for loop, each time we iterate over this list, we will add the value of I to the variable of sum. So what we will write, sum is equal to sum plus I. So what's happening here is that when the first time this loop runs, the first time this loop runs, the value of I is 10. So when this statement gets executed the first time, what's happening here is that the value of sum is 0, and the value of I is 10. So 0 plus 10 is equal to 10. That's why this value of sum gets changed to 10. And next time the loop runs, we already have the value of sum is equal to 10. So 10 plus 20 gets stored in the value of sum, which is 30, and so on and so forth. All right. But there's another way of writing this. Instead of writing sum is equal to sum plus I, we can also write it as sum plus equal to y, and this will lead us to the exact same output. And let us print this sum outside of that loop. Okay, this is important to print outside of the loop. Okay, first let's run this, and as we can see, the addition of all these numbers is 125. Now you must be thinking, what will happen if I print this inside of that loop? What happens if I print this here? So what will happen is that since the loop is executing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, the sum will also get printed 5 times. Okay, so let's execute it and see. So as you can see, the last element is still 125 because the entire sum only gets calculated in the after the loop is completed, but the summation is also printed at each iteration of the loop. All right, so now let's move on to some while loop questions. Okay. So we have while let's say, what conditions should we take here? Let's take the condition which was given in our example. While x is less than 10, we can write, let's say print anything. Like we will print, and in the next statement we can add the value of 1. We can add 1 to the value of x in each iteration. First, we should declare what the value of x exactly is. We'll write x is equal to 0, and then we can write x plus is equal to 1. Okay, let's run this. You can see this this keyword hello gets printed 10 times here. So we are starting from 0, and then we are going to less than 10, which is 9. And we are adding the value of 1 each time. So from 0 to 1, we are printing the word hello 9 times. So as you saw, this while loop will get executed as long as the condition is true. So is there a way that I can execute this infinite number of times? So what should I write here such that the while loop gets executed forever?
While x equal to 0.
Yeah, yeah, right. So if we write while x is equal to 0, then we have to remove this. We have to like, for example, let's just first execute this, and we only get this printed out once. That's because when the loop runs just once, the value of x goes from 0 to 1, and in the next iteration, the while loop gets exited because the value of x has now changed. But if we remove this and now we execute this, as you can see, our program doesn't stop. Right? It just keeps printing hello. So let me try to stop this. Okay, let me try to stop this. All right. And let's get to the bottom of it. All right. Here. So since x equal to 0 will always remain true because we are not changing the value of x, it will get executed an infinite number of times. But there's another way to do this that's even faster than this. If you want to execute something infinite number of times, you can spare the burden of calculation to Python, and we will remove this, and we can straight away write true here. Okay, and since true will always remain true, that's why if I execute this, this will again get printed an infinite number of times. But let's not do this or our console will get cluttered. Okay, so let's turn this into false. And when I try to run this, we don't get the hello printed a single time because even the beginning condition of a while loop is false. All right. So now let's get back to our presentation and let's see some more theory. Okay, we were here, and I guess you all will be, you all should be able to do this. Okay, first let's take a look at what this example exactly says. So we have a list of 6 numbers, and then uh, what we are doing is that we have 2 empty lists, which is odd and even. So and then we have a while loop. That while loop will get executed only and only if the length of this list is greater than 0. You must be thinking that the list already has 6 numbers. So how is it possible that the value of list will anytime get equal to or less than 0? So take a look at the line number 5 here. You see this dot pop function. What this function does is that the pop function automatically removes the last element of the list. So let's take a look at it in our IDE. Go back to our list one is equal to, and we will declare just a simple list here 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we will execute the statement list one dot pop. And then when we print a list, we will only see 1, 2, 3, and 4. We will not see the fifth variable. Yep, as I predicted, we only see 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's because this function, the pop function, has eliminated the last element of the list. And in this class, we are also going to study a list in depth, all the function like pop, remove, extend, append. We're going to study all the numbers, all the functions of the list. All right, so let's move on to the next example. Okay,
Hello.
here, yes.
Yeah, I have a question.
All right.
Yeah, it's actually, yeah, for this, like the for loop and the while loop. So like when we use a while loop, usually
Yes.
we have to write the incrementation manually, right?
It depends. Like if your while loop depends on a numerical condition, then you have to take a condition which is incremental. Yes.
Right. So now what about the for loop? Because like when we write for, let's say I in range X, as we
Yep.
are having before. So like basically what happens is that it will be incrementing it, right?
Yep. You are right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So as in that case, we don't have the incrementation written manually. So where
Yep.
for loop or where in the Python library we have that incrementation?
Okay. So you're asking that why we don't have to increment in the for loop, but we do have to increment in the while loop. So why do we even use while loop? Like, am I understanding you correctly?
Yes, kind of. Kind of.
Okay. So
Question is that
let's take a condition of while loop which does not depend on numerical data. Okay, let's first declare a variable. Let's declare a variable. Let's say we declare let's take it the name as x. Okay, and I will set the value of x as true. Okay, this is a Boolean variable. And then we will declare a while loop, and we will declare while x. Okay, so while x means that as long as the value of x stays true, this while loop will get executed. Okay, so inside this while loop, we can, let's say we take some input from a user. Okay, we will take another variable. Let's take the variable a is equal to input, enter let's take enter your name. Okay, this is my input variable. Okay, and now let's check for a condition. Like my name is Sid. Okay, so let's take a condition if a is equal to Sid. In that case, x is okay. Let's change the way. Let's change the value. If a is not equal to Sid, in that case, x will turn into false. Okay. Now let's try to run this. I have to enter my name, and let's say I enter a different name. Let's say I enter Parvez. That case, as you saw, the while loop, we exited the while loop because a condition has turned false. So in our examples up till now, we were using numbers as conditions for while loops, but you can use any type of condition for while loops. So in this case, as you saw, the program already knows my name, and if it detects, if the program detects that I entered somebody else's name, then it will execute. It will exit the while loop. Okay, but I cannot do this program using a for loop. Like it's not possible to do this using a for loop, right? Because I'm checking for a condition. Okay, did you get it?
Yes, I got this one, but that wasn't my question. Would I
Okay, what was the question?
Yeah, like in the for loop, we don't use to do
Yes.
implementation manually. Like we don't write I++ using the
Yeah,
for
but we
loop.
don't write it. Yes.
Yeah. Now the question that I have is that where in the Python library, or what is taking care of that incrementation there when we use the for loop? Like
Yeah,
what's taking
okay. So
automatically instead of
this
us?
keyword for, automatically means that the value of our iterative variable will get incremented by 1 each time. So for I, this automatically means that the value of I will get increased by 1 in each time. Like the for loop is made like that. Like the creators of Python made it like that. Like I get your question. Like in different, let's say if I'm coding in, let's say Java, I have to write I is equal to 0 and I is less than 10 and I plus plus, right? In different languages, I have to declare myself that I want to increase the value of I by 1 each time. But in Python, you don't have to do that. In Python already knows to increase it by 1 each time automatically. And if you want to change the value, then also you can change it using the third value inside the bracket.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, so now we get to the nested loops. Okay. So let's check what nested loops are. Let's say let's take our first loop, which is for I in range of 5. And inside that loop, I'm going to declare another loop also in the range of 5. And this time I'm going to take a different variable for j in the range of 5. And let's say I'm going to print something. I'm going to print XYZ. So how many times do you think this string is going to get printed? Hmm?
25 times.
25 times, yes, you're correct. So what's happening here is that first, the first for loop gets executed first. So in the beginning, we have a value of I is equal to 0. When a value of y is equal to 0, after that, this for loop will get executed in its entirety. First this for loop gets executed once, and then okay, let me rephrase that. This for loop will execute. Let's say the value of I is equal to 0. It will start from 0, and when the value of I is equal to 0, this loop will get executed 5 times because the value of j is 5. Like when I is 0, j will go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, that's why since it's going on 5 times, the XYZ will get printed 5 times. And then we go back to our first for loop. The value of I will go from 0 to 1, and then j will again go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. The value of I will get increased by 1, and the j will again go from 0 to 1, 2, 3, 4. That's why this print statement is going to get printed 25 times, because for each increment of each increment of I, j is going to get executed 5 times. So let's execute it, and this is roughly going to be XYZ is going to get printed 25 times. And let's make it a little more clear, so we know that it is getting exactly 20. It is getting printed exactly 25 times. Take a variable num is equal to 1. And here we will print a variable num, and num plus is equal to 1. Okay, now let's print this, and you see our last value is 25, which means that our these two for loops are getting executed 25 times. Okay, let me just comment all of this out. Okay, so here we saw that we put one for loop inside another for loop. But that's not the only thing we can do. We can put one for loop inside a while loop. Let's take an example. Let's take while. First, let's declare a variable. Let's say x is equal to. We will take a string for now. Let's say we'll take p2p. Okay. While x is equal to p2p. For this, we will write for, and inside this we can declare a for variable for I in range. Let's say what shall we take this as? Let's take it for the value as 10. Okay, and then we will print what shall we print? Let's just print I. Okay, and when this let's say, and when if I is greater than, let's take any number, is greater than 7, we will change the value of x is equal to, let's change the value p3p. So let's see what will happen in this case. All right, we have our variable x and the value of x is p2p. That's why this while loop will get executed at least once. Okay, so and then we inside this while loop we have our for loop, and inside the for loop this for loop will go will get executed 10 times because our range here is 10. It will go from 0 to 9, and each time the value of I will get incremented by 1. And as soon as the value of I becomes greater than 7, like after it will go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and as soon as it goes to 8, the value of x will change and it will become p3p. And since now x is equal to p3p and not p2p, so this condition right here inside this while loop will become false. Okay, so that means that as soon as I becomes 8, our while loop should get exited. But do you think this will happen? Do you think our for loop will get executed in its entirely and then we will exit the while loop, or will we execute will we exit the while loop before that? Like, what do you think will happen? Like when this command gets executed, do you think we will instantly exit this while loop, or will the for loop gets run in its entirety first? Will the for loop will gets completed first and then we will exit? What do you think will happen?
For loop might complete. Then we'll go.
For loop will complete itself.
Okay, let's take a look at what will happen. We print this, and as you can see, this gets the I gets printed from 0 to 9, which means that this for loop first this for loop gets completed, only then we exit the condition inside the while loop. That's because once the condition inside the while loop has been declared as true, then whatever code snippet is inside of it, that will get executed first, and after it has completed its execution, only then it will go outside of the loop to see if this condition is still true. And since the condition is not true, that's why it does not get printed again. Like it only gets executed one time. Okay, so we saw how we can use two nested for loops, and we also saw how we can nest a
Can you
for
please
loop
explain
inside of
it
a while
again?
loop. All right, let's start from the beginning. We have a variable x here, and the value of that variable x is p2p. All right, and then we start with a while loop. And the condition of while loop is that if x is equal to p2p, which it is, right? The value of x is p2p, and that's what we are checking for here. This while loop will get executed at least once. Okay, so let's see what is inside this while loop. Inside this while loop, we have another for loop, And this for loop will get executed 10 times because this range is 10. And range is 10 means that it will not go from 1 to 10, it will go from 0 to 9, right? And so the range is 10 and it's going from 0 to 9, and we are printing each number. We are printing each number from 0 to 9. As you can see, we are printing I from 0 to 9, and that's what we get as an output here: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. But what we are doing is that as soon as the value of I becomes greater than 7, okay, right here, when the value of I is 8, as you can see in the output here, as soon as it becomes 8, we are changing the value of x from p to p to p3p. So the question I asked was that since this condition is now false, all right, as soon as we reach the value of 8 in our for loop, this condition inside a while loop has been turned into false. So this while loop should get exited. We should exit this while loop. But the question is that would the last iteration of for loop get executed, or will it exit the while loop instantly? And the answer is that first it will complete this for loop, and only when this for loop is completed, then it will check the condition for while loop, because this has already started. This range has already started. Like, it's not checking for this condition over and over. Like, it will only check this condition after everything inside that loop has been executed. Did you get it?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Right, so we saw how nested loops work, and okay, now let's take a look at a pattern question. Okay, pattern questions are very common. Like let's say you're going for an interview or you're participating in a competition. Pattern questions are very common, and we will also take a look at what is and equal to blank space, what this exactly means. Okay, so we have a loop for I in range of what is the range here from 1 to 5, which means this will get executed 4 times, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we have another nested for loop for j in range of I. And what are we printing here? We are printing I, and a n is equal to a blank space. So first, let's understand what's happening here. Okay, we have a for loop I in range of 1 to 5, which means that in the first iteration, the value of I will be 1, right? The value of I is 1 in the first iteration. That means in the first iteration, when this for loop gets executed, it is only getting executed till 1. It will, because the value of I is 1 in the beginning, it is this for loop, the value of j will go for j in a range of 1. In the next iteration, the value of I will increase from 1 to 2. That's why the range of j will increase from 1 to 2. And as the value of I keeps increasing, it will go from 1, 2, 3, and 4. The range of j will also keep increasing from 1 to 2 to 3 and then to 4 finally. That's what's happening here. Now let's take a look at what this end is equal to blank space means. Okay. So first, let me just comment this out so I can tell you what exactly is happening. Let's say I have two print statements here. Okay, I have two print statement x. I have two print, let's say hello, and my next print statement is world. What happens when I print this? You can see hello and world gets printed one after the other. Like first we print this, and in the next line we are printing this. But what if I don't want to print that in the next line? In that case, what I will do that I will write a comma, and I will write n is equal to a blank space. So what's happening here is that instead of going to the next line, it is only going one space further. Okay, this is my string, and after this string, instead of going to the next line, it will just go another blank space here. Okay, it will just jump a blank space, and then the next print statement will get executed. Let's take a look here. We will execute this. As you can see, hello and world get printed in the same line. And this is exactly what's happening here also. Print I and is equal to a blank space, which means that each time we are printing I, it is going to get printed in the same line. Okay, but it's showing me an error. Did I do something wrong? All right, now it's working fine. I execute this, and as you can see, one gets printed once, 2 gets printed twice, 3 gets printed 3 times, and 4 gets printed 4 times. That's because we are printing I, and we are printing I j times. Like we are printing I in the range of j, and the range of j is declared by and the range of j is selected by whatever the value of I is in that iteration. Right. That's why we are getting a pattern like 1 gets printed once, 2 get printed twice, and so on and so forth. But what if I want to make a pyramid out of this? What if I want to go to the next line only when I'm changing the numbers? In that case, what I will do is I will come out of this for loop, okay, and I will go back to the previous loop. All right, I will come back to this loop, and here I can just write, let's say, print, and I can leave the quotations empty. And when I execute this, I get a pyramid 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, and 4, 4, 4, 4. What's happening here is that when this loop gets executed, I will get printed in the same line, right? Because I have n is equal to a blank space. That's why there is no line break between the I. But as soon as we exit this for loop once, we will print a blank space. All right. After each number here, there is an empty string which we are printing, and since we don't have an n is equal to blank space in this string, that means it automatically contains a line break. That's why after every number, we automatically are going to the next line. And let's say what happens if I write n is equal to a blank space here, then we will go back to our old pattern of what is 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, and 4, 4, 4, 4. All right. Does anybody have any questions here? Like, did you know if anybody didn't understand what this n stands for? All right. So first, let me erase this. Also, let me show you something else. Inside this end, it is not compulsory for you to enter a blank space. Okay, a blank space is just something I like to use so that it gets printed in the same line. You can write anything. Let's say if I print a question mark here, and we print this, you can see after in the end of each line, right? After in the end of each print statement, we get a question mark.
Sir,
Yes.
I have a question.
All
The
right.
range is was from 1 to 5, and when
Yep.
you print from 1 to 4. I don't understand.
Okay. So what happens is that do you remember when we were executing in the range of, did you remember when we were executing for I in a range 10? So what was happening there? It was going from 0 to 9. Right. So what happens is that in any programming language, we start counting from 0. Right. So if our range is, let's say, 5, then we will go from 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We are still counting we are still counting 5 times, but we're starting from 0. But what I have done here is instead of starting from 0, I have started from 1. That's why we are getting an output of 4 times. Like it's going from 1, 2, 3, and 4, but it will skip 5 because 5 is the end value. It always stops 1 before the ending value.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay, now let's see another pair. Okay, so do you want to study the functions of list, or should I include a couple of more questions first?
So, more questions.
All right, so let's take a look at 1 or 2 more questions. Or rather, let's stay with this one, and we will change something about it. All right. Let's say I have an let's say let's say I want to print a 90-degree triangle made of stars. Okay, I will here show you how that works, or I have it in the presentation. Okay, let's go back to our presentation. I have it in the end here. All right. You see this triangle on the left side, right? It's a 90-degree triangle which is made entirely of stars, of the star character in your keyboard, and we have to print this. And let's see how many rows are here in this one. Let's count this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so we have to print 10 rows of a 90-degree triangle made entirely of the star character. So our loop will so in that example we had 10 rows, but what if we want to, let's say, change the number of rows, and we will take the number of rows as an user input, right? So we will take a variable n is equal to input is equal to int input, right? We want to take it as a number, int input, and inside we will write enter the number of rows. And our loop here will see we got a triangle here also, a 90-degree triangle. So our looping conditions will stay the same, but we have to change the range of that loop. So instead of 5, what should I write here? What do you think I should write? I already have a number of rows in the variable n. N. Okay. Any other answers? All right. So we cannot write n here. As you remember, when we wrote 5, our loop got executed from 1 to 4. But if the user is entering 10 and we want to enter it 10 times, so we will write n plus 1. Yep, exactly, you're right. Okay, so we will write this as n plus 1. And here, instead of printing I, we will print a star. Okay. We have to enter it as a string. We will print a star here. All right, now let's run this. I will have to enter the number of rows. Let's enter the number of rows as 7. And I get this pattern triangle of 7 rows. And let's run this again. And here I enter it for 15. I get the triangle with 15 rows. Let me just expand it so you all can see. Right? You can count this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Right? We have 15 rows here. And for that, we had to use n plus 1 instead of n. All right. So, although we do have other questions for you, let's take a look at our presentation. We saw how we printed this. You have to print this triangle. Okay, take this as your homework for now. If you are not able to print this, you can contact me, and I will be very happy to explain how this functions. I will give you a hint. Okay, each time you have to first you have to print empty spaces, right? Let's for example, this element, this last element here, as you can see, the first star in the last row, in the 10th row, is on the leftmost side, but this first star of the first row is a little bit to the right, which means that you have to enter n number of spaces here and n number of spaces after that. Okay, this is your hint that you also have to print spaces with stars. Try to do this, and if you can do this, very good. You can upload it on your GitHub. And Parviz, what's the status update for GitHub? Have you made the organization yet so that they can submit it?
Yeah.
Okay. Where is the progress for our GitHub organization yet?
Oh, that one we can't do right now. They have to upload it on their own repository.
But can they add it later to?
No. They have the knowledge of how to contribute to open source. Then only they can add their code there.
Okay, so first we will take a seminar on open source, and then we will let you know how to add it to an organization. All right. Now we get to control statements. Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. All right. We have done a lot of coding right up till now. You can go to your ID. You can try a little bit of this out, and it's 12:08 now. We will start in 5 minutes. We'll start in 5 minutes. All right. Okay.
Sir, I have printed that pattern.
All right, so let's get started again. Okay, after that, does anybody have any questions up till now that even if you didn't understand, let's say the basics of any of the loops, I will be able to explain it again. Because loops are important. Like even when I studied it for the first time, it took me like 2 or 3 times to read the theory to understand it. So it's okay if you're not understanding it, I will repeat it. Okay, is there anyone who did not understand?
Sir, why Python does not support do while loop?
Okay, so yeah, right. So what happens in a do while loop is that first you execute the condition at least once, and then you start with the while loop, right? That's a do while loop, right? Okay. So the reason there's no explicit reason for that why Python doesn't have a do while loop, but there are possibilities that you can write your own do while loop without having it. Like if you want to write a loop such that first it will get executed at least once, and after that it will start checking for the conditional statement, then you can execute it even with a normal while loop. Like you can execute it once outside of that loop, and then you can write the while loop. So I guess the creators of Python thought that this wasn't a very useful loop because you can even program it without having to add it to the code base. Okay. Anyone else? Any questions?
Sure.
Yes.
I've not really understand the while loop, and the last example you do about the rows and everything, I've not managed that.
All right. So should I do the while loop from the basics, from the beginning?
Siddharth, show them the visual representation that we have created, that GIF.
All right.
They can relate with that.
All right. So take a look at the example one on the left side. Okay. Inside the while loop, we have a condition, and that condition is while a is less than 10. So as long as a remains less than 10, whatever is inside that while loop will keep getting executed. Right. And inside that while loop, we have two statements here, which is print a, and you can see the output on the right side here, 1, 3, 5, and 7. And our second statement inside of that loop is a is equal to a plus 2, which is we are incrementing the value of a by 2 each time the loop gets executed. Okay, so while loop works on a condition. This is a condition, a is less than 10. As long as it stays true, the loop will keep repeating. Okay, so this is the basics of a while loop. Okay, now let's get back to our last question. All right, let me just uncomment this. Okay. So let me show you visibly what's happening here. So let's say, for example, let's say a value of n is 5. And we are going, then in that case, we are going from 1 to 5 because n plus 1 is 6. That means we are going to from 1 to 5. So in our first loop, I'm not writing code, okay? I'm just writing numbers here. When the loop gets executed the first time, the value of I will be 1, right? And when the value of I is 1, this loop will also get executed. And what will happen? The value of j in range of I, and the range of I is 1, which means here we have 1 for the first iteration. That's why we will have the value of j also as 1. And when this and then we go back to our original loop. Okay, this time the value of I is 2, right? Which means that this value this right here, this time this value of this I is 2. That's why the j loop, the j iterator variable, that will run 2 times. All right, that will run 2 times. And in the next iteration, this value of I gets increased again by 1, which is 3. And since it is 3, the range of j will get increased to 3. And that's why j will get printed 3 times. Okay, it will get printed 3 times. So this is the logic of the loops right here. Instead of printing I and j, we are printing stars here. Okay, did you understand how these loops are working? The for loop and the j loop. Okay, I couldn't hear you.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
okay, the one who asked the doubt, did you understand it? Then I will get to what this end is doing. I will get it back again to what this end is equal to is doing here. All right, I guess they aren't responding. All right, so let me just quickly go over this again. So what end is equal to blank space does is that instead of printing in the next line, it prints it prints the next loop in the same line. Like the end of the print statement is going to be through an empty space. That's why we are getting so many stars here without each star being in the next line from another. And the reason there is a line break after a few stars is because after this j loop is completed, we are printing an empty string without the end statement. That's why it's going to the next line. Okay, we will send the solution also to you all after the class. And now let's move on to our control statements. All right. There are 3 control statements in Python, which are continue, break, and pass. First of all, let's take a look at break. We will take a very simple for loop for I in range of, let's say, 10, right? And we will print I. We're printing I, but we will add a condition here, all right? If I is, let's say, equal to 6, in that case, we will just break. Okay, does anybody want to guess what will get printed here? If I try to execute this, what will get
1,
printed?
2, 3, 4, 5.
6.
0, 1.
Anybody
0,
else?
1.
Yep. Yep.
0, 1, 2, 2.
Yep. It will. You're right. The ones who said that it will start from 0, you're right. I will print this, and it goes from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. All right. So what a break statement does is that as soon as Python comes across a break statement, it will just exit the for loop then and there. So you might be wondering, why did this 6 get printed even though we are breaking the loop as soon as we hit 6? So the reason that happened is because this print statement is coming before we are checking for the condition. If we remove this from here and we enter it after our condition, the same thing will get printed, but instead this value 6 will not get printed. Let's run this. And as you can see, it got printed from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's because we moved the print statement from before the condition to after the condition. Okay, this is the print statement. Now let's take a look at pass. Okay, and let's first let's just move this back to before. All right, and what happens if I add a pass here? Okay, first I will print this. As you can see, what a pass does is that a pass is basically an empty statement. We declare an if condition here, right? But if we do not write anything inside that if condition, and I try to execute this, it is telling me that there's an error here, that I have to write something inside that if condition. So if I do have an if condition, but I don't want anything to do with that if condition, I can just write pass, and Python means that if there's a pass there, it doesn't have to do anything, and everything keeps on working as normal. That's why when I run this, I get the range gets printed from 0 to 9. Right. And a third statement is continue. So what continue does is that it sends the loop from back to the first condition. Okay, let me rephrase that. If I write continue here, what will happen is that as soon as it occurs, as soon as Python reads this continue, it will go back to the beginning of the loop. So let's try to run this. And as you can see, again, we get the output gets printed from 0 to 9. So you must be thinking, what's the difference between a pass and a continue statement? Okay, so let's take a look. Okay, let me declare what if, let me just take this condition again. Okay, if I is equal to 6, in that case, print, I will print anything. Let's have a print hello world once again. All right, and instead of continue, I'm going to write pass here, and I will run this. Okay, so let me pull this up. What's happening here is that my loop is working normally until 6. Okay, and as soon as it reaches 6, these two conditions, both of them will get executed. Now let's take a look at these conditions one by one. If I is equal to 6, if the value of I is 6, in this first condition, there's just a pass statement, which means Python will not do anything. Then we get to this second if condition. If I is equal to 6, which is the same as the condition above, it will print hello world. That's why we get hello world printed right here. So the difference is that if I write continue here, okay, and I try to print this, you can see we do not get a hello world printed here. Okay, does anybody know why that happened? Why is it that the hello world was printed in pass, but it didn't get printed in continue? Any guesses?
Skip that irritation. Reverse back.
Yes, you're right.
The next.
So no, it will not come out of the loop. For coming out of the loop, we use the break statement. It stays within the loop, but it goes back to the top of the loop. So what's happening here is as soon as Python reads this continue statement, it goes back to, let me pull this down. All right. As soon as Python reads this continue statement, which I selected here, it will go back to the top of the loop, which is right here, this statement. Okay, so what's happening here is that since it will go back from here to here, it skips this statement. Like Python doesn't get the time to read this condition because it automatically went back to the beginning of the loop without reading this. That's the difference between a pass and a continue statement. All right. Any doubts here? Any of these three statements? Any one of you would like me to explain again?
No, sir.
All right. So let me just comment.
Please, can you repeat the pass?
All right. let's go back to the pass here. Okay, so let's first do this without a pass. All right, let's run this, and as you can see, Python throws me an error here. It says indentation error. So what's happening here is that I have an if condition here, right? I have a conditional statement of if, and since I have this statement, I have to write something in the statement. If I just leave it blank, Python will throw me an error. Python will tell that no, your syntax is wrong, your indentation is wrong, there's an error here. You have to write something. But what if I don't want to write something? What if I don't want anything to do inside that if condition? In that case, I can simply write pass. What's happening here is that as soon as Python reads this word pass, it knows that it doesn't have to do anything. For Python, pass means that it can just relax. It can sit back and do nothing. Like as soon as that's why this if condition is not gonna change anything in our code. All right. So let's comment this out. And let's go back to our presentation. Oh, yes.
In break statement, what about if we have another condition after the break statement? Will it get executed, or it will only execute the one before the break statement?
Let's take a look. If we write a break statement here, right? We're asking if this will get executed or not.
Yeah.
Okay, let's run this. And as you can see, let me pull this up. So what's happening here is that when Python comes across this break statement, it just exits the loop. It will exit this for loop once and for all, and it will not execute anything further. Like it will not execute anything which comes after that, and neither will it execute the for loop. Neither it will increment the value of I anymore. So as soon as there's a break statement, everything that's inside that for loop, it gets stopped right there.
Okay, I got it. Yeah, thank you.
Right. I think we have already done these examples, and I think we have already done enough examples to clarify this. So for now, let's skip it for now. And now we get to arrays. Okay, I will go over this a little faster because we don't have much time left. All right. So I would like to start with saying that there are no arrays in Python. Like if you Google this, you will find an arrays library in Python, but it's a third-party library. Like what I mean by that is that some person made a third-party library and then uploaded it to the PIP organization, and you can download it from there. But that's not what we natively use in Python. What we natively use in Python is list, list we have been studying for a long time already. So can go over this quickly. And so the difference between a list and an array is that inside an array, you can only have a single type of number, a single type of elements. For example, if you have integer in an array, all of the elements have to be integers. If you have a string, all of the elements have to be string. But in a list, you can have different types of element. You can have an integer, a float, a string, another list, and so on and so forth. You can have all data types as elements inside of a list. That's why we prefer a list instead of an array in Python. Okay, so you all already know what a list is. Lists in Python is like it's a sequence of data which is used. It's a sequence of data which comes one after the other as an index, and it is stored in just one variable. Okay, so here's how a list works. Like we've already studied how to access elements of the list using index. All right, so the 0 here is the 0th element. This 1 here is the first element. But what happens if you want to access the last element of the list, but you don't know the length of the list? Okay, you don't know how long the list is, but you still want to access the final element of the list. In that case, what you can do is you can use this -1. let's take a look at how this works. Okay, I will again name my list as list1 is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to print list1. And in my square bracket, I will type the index of -1. Okay, so if I print this, which element will get printed?
Sir, 5.
5, you're right. I print this
5,
and my output is 5. Because this element 5 is the -1th element of this list. Similarly, the second last element can be represented by -2. The third last can be represented by -3, and so on and so forth. Okay, so there are different functions we can perform on a list, which is traversing the list, which means we can take one element at a time for the list using a for loop, which we have studied today. And then there's insertion, which means adding new elements to the list. Deletion means removing elements from the list. And then there's search, which means searching an element of the list. And update, which means that you can change the value of an index in a list which already has another value, which means you're changing the pre-existing value of an element. One by one, we will take a look at all of these. First, you already know how to create a list. We have already studied it. Take a variable and initiate it by square brackets, and inside the square brackets, you can type any number of any number of elements. Okay, and you all already know what accessing is also using the index. First you have to type the name of the list, and inside the square bracket you have to type the index of the element you want to print, and that will get printed. Like I have my A index of 0, and the 0th element is 2. That's why my output here is 2. And okay, before we get to slicing, let's first do traversing. Okay, I have a list here. Traversing is very simple. We have already studied for loops. For I in list1, you can just print I. And when we print this, all my elements of the list get printed. Like my list has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gets printed here. Like this is the simplest way to traverse a list, and you can perform all kind of operations you want here. Let's say you want to change the value of I from 2. Like I plus is equal to 2, and then you can print I. As you can see, every value gets printed, but the difference is that all of the values have been incremented by the number 2. And now if we print our list here, print list1, let me just comment just this out, right? And I will execute this. So as you can see that our original variables haven't changed. That's because the value of I was only changing within the scope of that loop. Outside of that loop, it hasn't changed yet. Okay, this was traversing. Let me comment this out. Now we get to insertion. Okay. Okay, so before we do insertion, now let's first get to slicing. Slicing is also part of indexing, so I think we should do this first. I have my list here. Let me just copy paste this list. All right, I will copy paste my list here, and let me change this to a relatively random order: 15, 17, 5, 3, 7, 65, 43. Okay, I have a very random list here. Let's say I want to print my list. Okay, I will write print list1, and what happens here? You guys already know the entire list will get printed. Let's say I want to print my list, but not the entire list. I want to declare a starting position, and then I want to declare an ending position, and I only want to declare my list between that. Okay, let's take a look at the examples here. Okay, first let's take from 2 to 5. What I will do is I will write square brackets, and inside I will write the index 2, then a colon. This colon is very important, and then I will write the index 5. And let's print this. And the output is 5, 3, and 8. What's happening here is the index value of 2. Okay, this is 0, 1, and this is 2. So we are starting from here, from the second index, and we are going all the way to the fifth index. In the fifth, this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is the fifth index, but you might have noticed we are not printing 65 here. That's because, as you guys already know, we always stop one value before the ending value. Like the ending value is 5, which means we will stop at the fourth value. That's why the index of 2, the index of 3, and the index of 4 get printed here. And let's say, what if I want to start from the value 2, but I want to print every element after that? In that case, I can just leave this blank. I can just write 2 and then colon. I can print this, and starting from 5, which is the element at the index 2, every element after that gets printed: 5, 3, 8, 65, 43. Similarly, if I want to print element up to a certain point, like I want to print everything before that, but I want to stop it at a certain point. Let's say I want to stop it at the sixth element. In that case, I will just erase whatever's before the colon. I will print this, and as you can see, the list gets printed from the starting, but it stops before the sixth index. Like 65, 43 is at the sixth index, and everything before that gets printed. Okay, do we have another example that's not here? All right, and let's take a look at what happens when we don't have a starting value or an ending value. In that case, our entire list gets printed. Okay, so after this class, play around with this. Okay, use this slide, use this colon inside the square brackets and change it to different numbers, and try to play around with it, and you will get a hang of how exactly it works. Okay, any questions here? How about slicing?
So can you please explain the second one, the -5?
Okay, the -5. All right. So it is going from nil to -5. First, let's take a look at what will get printed. Okay. When you try to execute it, only 15 and 17 get printed. Okay, so let's take a look. You know, the value of this index is also -1. We saw it in the presentation, right? The last element is also -1. This is -1. This is -2. This is -3. This is -4. And this is -5. So what's happening is we are starting from the starting point, and we are going from the starting point to the -5th index, which means we are going from 15 to 5, but not including 5. That means only 15 and 17 will get printed. And that's our output, which is 15 and 17. Correct?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
All right, so let's move on to the next topic. You guys already know how indexing works. Okay, so we'll move on again. All right, let's go to how we can change the elements of a list. Okay, let me just erase this. And I want to change, let's say I want to change this 17 to 27. I know my index for 17, which is the first index. So I can write list 1, index of 1 is equal to 27. Okay, I print, and now if I print this entire list, I will print my list 1 and I execute this. And as you can see, this element has been changed from 17 to 27. Okay, that's our output. In our output, we have 27 instead of 17. What if I want to change multiple values at once? In that case, we just studied slicing just a minute ago. So we'll take our example from here. Let's say we take our example from 2 to 5. Our starting value is 2 and the ending value is 5, which means the second, third, and fourth index will get changed. And we have to write, since we are using it for 3 values, we are changing 3 values. We have to enter 3 values also. Okay, so we have 27, and let's take 34 and 93. We have to write a comma here. All right. do this, and when we print our list here, you can see this you can see the second, the third, and the fourth variable. They have been changed from 538 to 27, 34, and 93. And that's how you change multiple values in a list at once. All right. So that was for change. Let's go back to see what other topics they were. So we have done updating. We have already done updating. Okay, updating means changing the value of any element. So now let's move on to the let's move on to the next topic, which is appending. Appending means we are adding an element to a list. Okay, so let me just remove this and we can get our original list back. And I will remove this also. And here, right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 7 elements in my list. Okay, from 0 to 6, I have 7 elements. I want to add another element to this. So in that case, I can just write list1 dot append, and inside the bracket I can write any number. Let's say I write 9, and then I will print my list. I will print list1. Okay, print this, and as you can see, the last value has been added as 9. So what append, this function of append, it just adds whatever value you input inside the bracket, it just adds it to the end of the list. And it will not add it to the beginning or to the middle, it will always add it to the end of the list. Okay, there's also another way to extend the list, which we can do using the extend function. For example, if I want to add, let me just comment this out. I will just comment all of this out. This, I will comment this out, and I will copy my list down here. All right. But if I want to add multiple elements at once, in that case, I will write list1 dot extend. Inside, I will first write round brackets, and inside these square brackets, I can have multiple values as 1, 2, and 3. And then I print list1. All right. I run this. As you can see, 1, 2, and 3 have been added to the end of the list. So this is how you can add multiple elements to the end of a list. All right. You can also do this. You can also add to list using the plus operator. Let's say I have a list1 here. I will remove this. All right, and I have list. I will declare on a list2 here, and list2 will be, let's say, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I will write list1 is equal to list1 plus list2. Okay, I have my list1, I have my list2, and I'm adding both of them, and I'm storing the value of the added list inside my original list, which is list1. And when I run this, you can see both of the lists have been added, combined and added inside our original list, which is list1. All right. Now we get to removing the list elements. There are two ways we can do this. There is the remove function, the pop function, and the delete function. Okay, all right. So let's take a look at this one by one. All right. Well, let's see the example here. Okay. So this is a little, yes.
I guess if we start this topic in the next class, that would be good, because 2 hours is almost.
Okay, we are running out of time. Okay, so let me just show them searching and then we can end it. Okay, because I have an interesting topic to share about searching. All right. Okay, so let's get to searching. Now, first, let me take a look at what we're doing here. Okay, so we have our list here. Let me just copy paste this list, and we are going to add some duplicate element. Let's say I have my 65. I will write another 65 here. Okay, and I have my 5. I can type another 5 here. Okay, And now let's say I want to find this position of my, let's say I want to find the index position of the value 15. In that case, what I will do, I will write print list1 dot index of index, let's say 15. What's happening now is that it will look for the value of 15 and it will give me back the index of it. All right. So let me print this, and as you can see, the output is 0, which means that this number 15 exists at the 0th index. Now, what if I change it? What if I change it to 5? Okay, I have 2, 5 here. Okay, which index will this program out? Which will it? This is at the 2nd position and this is at the 3rd position. Will this program give me 2? Will it give me 3? Or will it give me both 2 and 3? What will happen here?
So it will give 3.
Okay, let's take a look.
It will give 2.
Yeah, it gives the output as 2. See what? So when it starts looking for an element, it will always start looking from left to right, right? And it comes across this element first, and this is at the 2nd position. That's why our output is 2. Okay, so what if I want to output both 2 and 3? What do I do then? Like, I know that this dot index function is not helpful because it will only give me one output. In that case, I can go back to my loop. I will just comment this out. And let's go back to our loop, all right? And normally we can just iterate through our list using for I in list 1, all right? And if I is equal to 5, and then we can print the index of 5. This is not the correct way to do this, okay? This is not the correct way if you want to find the index, because the function gets a little complicated. Like, you can Google how to find the index of a number using its value, but that will come across the same error that the problem will be same as the problem we faced here. What we do here is that instead of for I in list 1, we will use the length of that list. So what we'll do is for I in range of length of list 1. Okay, I have 2 opening brackets, so I'll write 2 closing brackets. If I is okay, so my I is going to get executed as long as the length of my list is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So my list is going to get executed 9 times. My for loop is going to get executed 9 times. And inside, I can see if my looping variable is equal to the value I want to find. Let's say I want to find the value of 5. Okay, so what I can do here is that if list 1 index of I is equal to 5. Okay, in that case, I can just print your index is, after comma, I can just write I. Okay, so when I try to run this, what happens is that it gives me the output, your index is 2 and your index is 3. So everybody gets this for loop, right? Instead of iterating through the list, we are iterating through the length of the list, and then we are checking for each index of that list. That's why the benefit of doing this is that this iterator variable I already is the index. Like, since we are iterating it through the list as from starting from 0 to 7, which means it already has the value of the index of each element, right? That's why we can just straight away print I, and we can get the index where our elements are stored. All right, so what we are left with is, let's take a look. So we are done with searching, we are done with updating, and we are done with traversing and insertion. All we have left is deletion, and we will do deletion in the next class. We will do it in the beginning of the next class. Don't worry about it. And that was it for today, guys. Thank you all for attending this session once again. It's very nice to, like, I'm also learning as I'm teaching you, so it's beneficial for all of us. Yep, thank you all for coming today and staying for 2 hours. Let me just stop sharing my screen. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, and if anybody has any doubt, you can ask in the group, and if the group is closed, you can DM all the organizers like Parvez, me, Ritik, and there are other organizers like whoever like even you can even if you think you are proficient in Python, you can even volunteer to solve doubts of other people. Like you can just write in the group that just write. You can contact me in the group, and I'm sure some students will be happy to contact you also. All right, that's it for
Okay,
today.
thank you so much.